I hope. Let me just double check that we are. Yes, we are live now.
That's good.
Cool. Hey, Manik.
Hey Alex, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good.
So, why did you decide to use a Mule SDK?
It's fun. We are builders, right? So we need to keep building, and that's what SDK allows us. Let's build stuff.
Yes. Are you still developing in Java? Because I'm not.
Yeah, I never left doing Java. I think it's always been there. And I also had an opportunity to work on so many connectors at for fun or for some work. So it was always in there. So I'm still working in Java. I don't think I can ever leave Java.
That's bold. I think,
Yes.
yeah, I was a Java developer before, MuleSoft developer, and I just can't go back. I prefer MuleSoft.
Yeah. It's different, but both things are more fun, right? Like you can enjoy Mule, you can enjoy Java, you can enjoy everything in there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yes.
So, do you have something planned, or are we just gonna go and see what happens?
It's like I said, let's play with SDK. So obviously there should be some plan about it, right? So I have a thought of what we can do, like start with the SDK documentation, go over it, start with the basic. So basically see if I have to use SDK, how should I start and how should I keep moving on it. So
All
that's
right.
the like exploration part more, and probably we're gonna read through the document, try to figure out stuff. So it's not like a presentation where everything is built and we are just going to walk over it. So we will
Yes.
play, learn, do it,
So
and
you've never
hopefully
used
whatever
it.
the sorry.
You've never used it before.
No, I have used it SDK, but not for not every part of it. SDK is big, like it gives lot of features in there. So building a small basic connector is one thing, but something trying to do different or some other system, it's much more funful. So I have used it, but not every aspect of it. So we will figure it out.
Perfect. Yeah, I haven't
Right?
used it either. So let's see how it goes.
Yes, yes.
All
So do
right.
you start? How into start?
Yes, I'm gonna share your screen now. So now
Okay,
we're,
let me move
yes.
ourselves out of that screen. All right.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, so should we start playing? Start the game?
Yes, you drive. Just tell us what you know about it, what you want to do, what's happening.
Yeah, so let's see. I'm hoping, if not all, most of us knows Mule SDK, like why does it exist, what kind of things it offers, right? But if not, we all do Mule integrations, and there are existing connectors that allows us to connect with so many systems. There are modules and stuff, but there could be a reason that okay, I want to build a connector for this system, or I want to extend the capability of the runtime and add these features. So for all those things, Mule SDK exists in there, right? uh, it does have two things. Looking at the documents here, it has like in XML SDK and Java SDK. I am more on the Java SDK part of it, so we will stick to that, like a Java part of it. It to me that is more powerful than XML SDK. I haven't used XML SDK much, but at least that's what I understood, right? So let's see, what does this guy gives us? It does have nothing on this page. So let's go in here. Okay, so SDK in Java. Obviously, you need Java for it. It requires Apache Maven, and it is giving us archetype to generate it, right? So let's start it. So let's see. We will run this. Go in here, do this, and so Maven, it's an archetype we are going to generate. So hopefully it should generate a thing for us. So name of the extension. This is nothing but, for example, HTTP connector, or if you have Salesforce extension, Salesforce, that name is the name of your extension. And for today's work, I was going over the systems that, okay, what should we try for? At least the system that I have never worked with. And after seeing few systems, NoSQL database seems to be a good example of it, right? So I have a database, CouchDB. So let's see if we can build something for CouchDB. That extension doesn't exist. I didn't build that one in the first place. So let's see. So that will be our name of extension, CouchDB. Group ID com dot. If I can type it right, I'm gonna just give it to. No, I'm just gonna give it to this. And artifact ID will be Mule CouchDB connector. Why connector? Why not module? Because we are going to try to connect to a system, right? So we will say connector. Version. So let's start with 0.0.1 main package. Of course, it will start with the group ID, then new, and since we are working with CouchDB, this is our base package, and we hit enter. Boom, something happened. Okay, so it generated a project for us. So let's go in there and let's see what it created. Okay, so it create. I can maximize this. Okay.
You're like a wizard.
No, I am more of a terminal guy, so I always enjoy terminal more than other things, right? So this is what it generated: README file, pom.xml, and this is our main package: com, Java streets, Mule, CouchDB, and some internals. Then we have a test case here, CouchDB operations test case, right? And a resource, I believe this is an sample test XML. So what is this basic thing that it generated? So let's see. For now, I think not everyone will like terminal, so we will open IDEA and IntelliJ. So let's see. Come on, IntelliJ. Oh yeah, I created this project, so I should trust it.
What is idea? Oh,
Oh, IntelliJ.
IntelliJ.
Sorry, IntelliJ. It's like historically IDEA and then IntelliJ. So okay, so there it is, and it's loading. Come on.
I just feel like you're confusing me a lot with all of your terminal stuff.
Okay, no, no. I will try my best to confuse. No, not to confuse you, but we'll see.
Now I
Okay.
think you're trying to confuse me.
Let's see if I succeed in that one. But this is what we see. So README it generated for us, which is pretty empty. Just this guy, but this is important, right? Like this, I think this one is the one dependency. If we have to use this connector into Mule applications, this is what we will use as a dependency for Maven. Then looking into the POM is pretty simple. Our group ID artifact and extension packaging. So this is the guy that tells build and the Mule runtime that this is an extension. We are going to use that. So when we build it, Mule extension as a packaging will tell the plugin that builds this extension that we have to generate a Mule plugin out of this thing. We will see at the end what it spits out, right? The other interesting part here is this parent. So this guy here is important. Oh, it took me into the parent. I didn't realize that. Okay. So this module parent, this is something you should pay attention to, right? Like if I go back to documentation, choosing the SDK, this is where it relates. The version that we see there 1.1.6, that 1.1 usually relates to the Mule runtime. So anything starting with 1.1 will be compatible starting 4.1, right? And 1.2 onwards, 1.2, if we use that parent version, basically we are making 4.2 as our base supported runtime, right? So if you don't need any advanced stuff, I believe document somewhere here suggests stick to the 1.1, like to the base, if you really don't need any extra sum, which I never stick to that. I always go with at least 1.2 or 1.3 in the minimum. Why would you use 4.1 runtime now? Do you use Alex?
I
Do
misplaced my microphone. Wait, what is the question?
do you use do you still use 4.1 runtime?
No.
Okay, so since you said no, I'm not gonna stick to that. You don't use it. We will go to 1.3.0. So what this means is the features that our SDK 1.3 version will provide us are more targeted towards 4.3 version of Mule runtime, right? So you can go through it and see if you need any something that is more advanced. For example, 1.1 and 1.2 at least had a difference of polling source. Somewhere it is in the documentation. Polling source, yeah, here. If you also need polling source, go with the 1.1 and the 1.0 as different. So we will stick to 1.3. Let's work with the latest. Okay, so this is done. Let's look at now what the code it generated. So what we see here are like four classes: extension, configuration, connection provider, and operation. Mostly the familiar words when we look into connectors, right? So we have an extension. This is the main class of an extension, and it is an entry point from which configurations, connection provider, operations are declared, everything, which is correct. So this is the entry point. This is our main extension class, which could have so many extensions, if not at the minimum a pointer to configurations for this particular extension, which is what it is doing, CouchDB configuration. So we go in there here, and it has one parameter to it, config ID, then connection provider, CouchDB connection provider. So you can see it prefixed everything with a CouchDB, which was the name of our extension, right? So that's why you may want to choose your name wisely, because I have even in the beginning I used to put name like CouchDB extension, for example, and then or XYZ extension, and I used to put extension name in that name, and the class names used to be XYZ extension connection provider or like a long one, which are weird, right? So just choose extension name wisely there. Uh, so extension class starts in here, which goes into configuration. Configurations are nothing but what you put in your global configuration, global elements. You configure HTTP requester or listener, that kind of, right? So this is that element. Configuration, if we see here, so here configuration actually points to then your connection provider and operations that are supported by that particular configuration. And that's what this document here says. It represents your connections and operations. So configuration is going to go into connection provider. Connection provider is another important class, like document mentions. This is what basically going to provide instances of your connection to your extension. So if you are connecting to database, or if you are connecting to CouchDB connection in our case, this thing is going to provide us that connections. Something to note here is this guy, pooling connection provider. And this thing here says, look, I never read this part. So pooling connection provider, it example uses pooling connection provider, which declares that the connections resolved by this provider will be pooled and reused. The other are cache connection provider or the basic connection provider. So I think this will which provider you choose depends on what type of connections you are working with. If it is something like, let's say, database connections, pooling makes sense because you can reuse those connections while you have certain number of connections available in the pool. And then cache is when you just want to have one connection per configuration, right? Then you go with the cache connection provider in there. Uh, then basic connection, let's not worry about the basic connection provider. Okay, so what does this guy have? This guy have a connect method and disconnect and validate, only 3 methods. That's enough, right? So connect method, every time configuration or our operation requires a connection, this method will be called, and whatever you return from here goes back to uh, generates a connection and gives it back to your extension. Disconnect, when you are done, extension will take care of it. Let's see what this connection has. It's a plain Pojo class, no annotations for once. That's good, looks very clean, right? So this is where the real stuff happens. There is no real connection with anything here unless we add it here, right? But this will represent your connection with database or API or whatever you are building on. So what will it look like if we go and do this guy? So let's see if we can, let's install and add it into an application. Okay, I'm trying to install that in my local. So it's installing 0.0.2. It's gonna run the test case. Come on, in meantime, like I said, this guy is what we need. It's running tests. Ooh, the empty one also has some tests. Okay, it generated, let's look at the test that it ran. Okay, so Couchbus operation test case has it generated 2 samples for us, how to run a flow in your test case and how to get the result of that flow back and do an assertion on it. These are good references. Once we have our real operations, we can use these as baseline, right? So we'll keep these one. Let's go into Studio. This is an empty application. Doesn't really have anything in there. Let's add our dependency. Okay, and we will put this guy here. Come on. I think we install 0.0.2. All right, so we got our connector here. So this is our connector. It had only 2 default example operations that were generated by SDK's archetype, right? And if we just drop one of them here, the global element that we were talking about, we saw in the default one, we should have that here. So this is the default extension generated global configuration. Has 2 parameters, required parameters, something, friendly name, 100, and config ID, something about it, my config. So this thing that we see here under connection in this tab, and then we see something on the general tab, right? So these 2 things goes back to, if I go back like here and look on the connection provider, right? So whatever parameters we add on connection provider, they go under connection part here, right? So they are related to our connection, and everything else that we provide on configuration here, config ID, that goes on the connection general tab of it. So that's the structure. We have operation. I don't think we looked at the operation. So this is the operation that it generated. And it has 2 operations, retrieve info, say hi, these 2 things. So that's basic. That's what SDK gave us, right? So let's see if we can add some features to it. For that, what I have is I have an CouchDB running in my local, right? So I'm gonna hit refresh on it. So it asks me for login, and it's a super secret password. You can guess it what it is. Okay. So when I log into it,
Security, Manik, please.
yes, it's super secret password. You can't even guess that. It's running in my local Docker container. So the moment this is done, I'm gonna just destroy it. Boom. Okay, so this is CouchDB. I have learning in local and it has one database created in here. So let's see if we can add in feature there that allows us to connect to this Couchbase database and probably fetch all the database from here. The documentation of Couchbase says it supports APIs, right? So this is API reference, and it has a lot of APIs, like lot of endpoints. We're not going to add for everything, but if we look at this thing, let's see this guy, right? All DB. This is what we will look for if we can add an operation which allows us to retrieve all the databases from Couchbase. So we go back and we go back to our here. Okay, so what do we need? We definitely need URL to connect to the API. So like HTTP, we need URL, port, obviously the path, and anything that we require to interact with Couchbase database, right? So let's begin with our connection thing. Couchbase database connection provider. Like I said, whatever we put on the connection provider, that is what goes into on the connection tab, and we can use that to create our connection. So let's see, we can change all this once my keyboard works with me well. Uh, Private string URL as usual for our this thing. So parameter.
So painful.
Yes, lot of typing, right? Like not drag drop, but lot of typing. Once you do lot of typing, that is what enables drag drop. So somebody
True,
have to
true.
bear the pain. Uh, the thing about like this thing, we have parameter here, and once you define annotate a field with parameter, that is what will tell SDK that this thing needs to appear on your UI in the configuration of connection. And there are other things, and I think the easy way will be to look at like this. So you have parameter, and under the parameter param package, you can see all other annotations that you can actually add on an on that particular field. You can make it optional, you can make it null safe, you can define media type for that one if it is going to accept JSON or something else like that, right? And there are more around the documentation part of it, like display name. That is what we see on the in the IDE, right? And if we have to give an example, how will it look like? So if we just say like, okay, display name, and if we see this is going to be my CouchDB server URL, right? So that's gonna be my display name, and I can give example here saying, okay, just give me HTTP localhost. I don't even remember the port of that thing. Where is it running? 5984, right? 5984. So this is just example field in there. We don't need these guys, so
I
we
always
can.
have to copy and paste the ports. I never trust myself.
Yes, that's true. Like we make mistake in one digit and then we keep thinking, okay, where did this thing go?
Yes.
Okay, So somehow this thing right? Okay, so we have URL to connect to there. What else we need? We will require obviously credentials, the super secret password. Let's say username and private string password, right? So we say this thing and parameter, and I think there is something called password. So if we annotate this guy like this, you will see only dot dot dot, making your password more secure, right? Then nobody can see what you are typing. So you have username and password, two things here. What else do we need? I don't think I had anything else, right? On the login page, did I? No. Nice. I even forgot there is a logout button here. Okay, nothing. Admin and super secret that I didn't type. Password. Okay. So we need at the minimum those three things. So we have these things, right? Let's see what happens in here. So connection is giving us error because it was expecting ID, which we no longer need. So we will just get rid of these things. But now we need those three things that are there. So we will let these things go to our username. I mean, in reality, you will create some kind of object to hold all this information and pass that information to other objects, right? So okay, so we pass this thing in here and bind constructor to fields. We got these fields in here. Okay, so we have these three things here. Let's see if we can build and take a look at it. How does it look? But before that, why this thing is giving error? Oh yeah, we removed the get ID method. Remove from this guy. Anything else in red? Nothing, right? Okay, so let's install. Oh, I should show what that Maven MVN CB is, right? That
I
you
trust
did
you.
not see what I am doing there. Okay, so what I do with that thing is I run Maven CB command. Every time you import something into Studio here, Studio will cache this version of your connector, and even if you make changes on SDK side, you reinstall same version, Studio will not refresh itself, right? So what I do is every time I build, I increment the version of the connector. So that's what you see here. Yeah, this thing here, Maven 03. It installed Maven 03, and the way it does is Maven CB alias. So that alias is it actually parses your POM file, increments the patch version, and then updates back the POM and then do the installation. So it's just like a small command to continuously keep incrementing the patch version, right? And so now we generated 03. If we go back here and say this guy our 03, come back. All right, and if we go here, this guy is gonna be bad because we removed some parameters from it. Okay, now here we have a CouchDB server URL. This is what we gave as a friendly name, and it is friendly. And this thing is an example HTTP localhost 5984 from our connection provider. All those parameters go on provider. So here, all these things, display name example parameter. These guys were they didn't get friendly names, so they just made up a name for themselves. Studio knows extension SDK knows it auto generates those names, and you have these things here, right? And then we can do localhost 5984 was it? Yeah, 5984. Username is admin C. You still cannot see my super secret password. It's all like 8 dots. Okay. And test my config. So now we have this thing here. And if we do test connection, hopefully it goes through. Oh yeah, it succeeded, right?
Yay.
Yay. But except it didn't go anywhere because we didn't implement this connection, right? So it didn't do anything. It just validated, yeah, whatever we are passing. It actually, when you do a test connection, what it does is it is going to invoke this connect method and makes sure that you are not getting a connection exception. If it already has connection instance there, it is going to run a validate method on it. And you can see this method is by default returning success. So no matter what happens here, the test is going to succeed, right? So you can change this thing to really do something meaningful in there. But let's see here. Now, to more interesting part. We are talking about connecting to an API, CouchDB here, which is going over HTTP, right? So we need an extension for HTTP. Let's go back to SDK. Okay, so module structure, some of these things we looked at. We are not looking at sources yet, but operations, right? We have a connections, operations, these things. What we need is something that lets us interact with HTTP. And I know of something, not here, best practices, this guy, HTTP based connectors. So if you are going to create an extension for HTTP based communication, you may want to come here and read through this, like what does MuleSoft or the SDK team recommends for that approach. If you are using Mule HTTP, what they recommend basically is you should be using Mule HTTP client to make any outbound requests instead of adding any other HTTP client in there, for example, Jersey client or HTTP or anything, right? And I believe all that is for the fact the Mule SDK, Mule HTTP client is much more integrated with Mule runtime. So chances of it not messing up your threads and everything are less, right? So if it is possible, stick with this thing. The other reasons for that is we could just leverage the HTTP service, the services, right? If you have ever looked into the runtime folder, a local runtime, you should see a lot of services running in there, like HTTP service, scheduler service, or Weave, data view service, and all that stuff. So we can leverage existing HTTP service to give us HTTP client that will allow us to run to invoke the remote HTTP API for CouchDB. Right. So let's see what it says. Okay, it says on the connection provider we need to inject HTTP service. We'll not worry about TLS right now. And then use startable and stoppable connection providers. So what that startable stoppable means is almost all runtime components you can implement a lifecycle to them. You can just implement a lifecycle interface, then you will get init, start, stop, destroy, all those methods, or you can individually implement startable, stoppable. I think initializable is also an interface there, but here it says startable and stoppable. And the reason for that is if we are creating HTTP clients or services, we need to start and stop them. So Alex, let's do some copy paste.
Yes.
Yes. So this is our connection provider. We are going to inject HTTP service. And what else it said? It said we need to start and stop, which means we need to startable and stoppable. So let's implement star table, and I implemented wrong star table and stoppable. Okay, implement both methods. Yeah, and then we'll go back and we will stick to our copy paste part of it. And here we are. So what we are doing, start, it is actually just starting the context. We don't need context, right? So we are just gonna stick with the service factory HTTP service and this thing. Okay, hold on. So let's get this thing first in here, and then we look at it. We are not going to work with TLS context. This guy, we need HTTP client. Okay, what else? Okay, so we started. What happened here is we have an HTTP service, a service provided by runtime. It is shared across runtime, so it's not that we are creating so many instances of HTTP service. But then what we get is a service that provides us a client factory, which will allow us to create HTTP clients. This guy, get client, I don't know what that thing is, but okay, it says create HTTP client factory, HTTP client configuration builder dot. Okay, so we need to build a request so we can build HTTP client. So we have client factory, and from there we are going to get a builder set name, some name. No, let's go back to documentation. Wait, so connection provider, we have it here. Set HTTP client name. HTTP client name created by each connection provider must have a name. Oh, this is a good reason. So it is very important for performance and troubleshooting point of view. Each HTTP client creates a set of selected threads that uses IO, and then the name should match with your extensions configuration. Obviously, it will make life easy, right? For that, we have this special element here, ref name annotation. What that does is, so if I add this ref name here, what it will do is, if we go in here, this is the name, right? This is the name of our configuration. Whatever name we give here, that name will be the value of this thing. That's what this ref name means. And what SDK documentation asking us to do is this guy, like use that config name, so that way the client it builds has the same name as your configuration. And if you start debugging things, and if you wake up in the night to look for the thread, you know which thread or which configuration it is giving. Okay, so we have
Are
config
you
name.
speaking from experience?
Yes. Debugging threads and trying to figure out what happened is a nightmare. So whatever helps is always helpful. So we have HTTP client service here, and we now created with this one. So now when this thing runs at the end, when it starts, we should have a fully initialized HTTP client that we can use to make HTTP requests. But the thing is, all our interactions with the CouchDB should happen from here. So we should pass this guy to this. So we will pass this guy here, and we will create a field, final field for HTTP client.
There's a question. So I can
Yes.
use this SDK, for example, to build new connectors for MuleSoft. I believe that's what you're doing, right?
Yes, that's what I'm doing. And yes, you can build any new connectors modules, anything for Mule runtime. And what we are doing here is trying to build a connector which will allow us to fetch database list from CouchDB, right? Basically, we are building a CouchDB connector in simple words, right? So hope that answered the question, right? So now we have the HTTP client here. So let's say public, um, come on, string get database list. That's what we will try to do here. And I don't think it will be a one database because we are talking about list. Okay, and let's say empty for now. So this is the part. We have our HTTP client in here. So where is that? So Couchbase DB connection. So what
Quickly,
we
another
have is,
question.
yes.
Can we modify existing connectors using SDK?
I don't think so. You can modify existing connectors, but some connectors provide a way of extending them, meaning if they provide like an service that you can inject into a connector, you could do that. But no, you cannot modify connector in there. And the part of one of the reason for that is most of the code that we are, I should have mentioned this earlier too. So most of the code that we are working on is in the internal package, right? So and we'll just do this thing. So from the modularization point of view, every extension has API and internal package. Everything that is in the internal is not accessible outside of that connector. So if you even try to add this connector as a dependency on your new connector and try to access CouchDB connection object, you won't be able to do it. That's by the class path isolation. Everything in internal it can only be accessed within this connector. So I don't think you can modify existing connections. If a connector provides a way to add more features into it. For example, I think HTTP connection allows you to create more authentication mechanisms like OAuth and all those. Those all are nothing but an extension to HTTP connector itself, right? So, but then they will be, their SPI will be part of the API package. So the answer is like yes and no, but not probably the way you are thinking. You cannot go just in the connector and modify its source code by using this SDK. Okay, so let's see what we have. We have URL, username, config name, and our HTTP client. So let's see if we can make the touchdown. So if we go back into API, obviously this needs to have an authentication. So here is an authentication. And authentication has basic cookie, proxy, JWT. Let's keep it simple. Proxy, basic authentication. So we can do basic authentication with username, password, and then get back to our all DBs call. This guy, all DBs. What it needs is literally nothing. Request headers, these two, query parameters, sorting, not worrying about that right now. So let's make that. So we go into here, database connection list, right? Now we have to implement that actual interaction with CouchDB in here, and that needs to be done using the HTTP client. So we have HTTP client which allows us to send requests and send async. Let's stick with the send. So once you are here, the easiest way that I usually do is just do a command click on it and go into it and see what it is doing. Okay, so it does get a request in here and then builder options, nothing. What are these options? Options is an interface. So, okay, so it allows us to set authentication in there, right? So that is something good. Let's see what we can. So HTTP client.send. It needs HTTP request. This is usually how I do. Like if it's a parameter, I start typing the parameter. Most likely you are gonna find a builder for it. So HTTP request, and you see a builder in here. So do a builder and then start working on it, builder. Okay, so we have method and all this stuff. URI. So URI would be what we got from our parameter, right? So we have this URI here. Okay, and what did I do? Okay, URI. Then we need this HTTP, so method. So method is get. That's what we are doing. Protocol. Let's see if we can give it 1.0. I'm gonna put them down here. Okay, so we have request builder, URI, URL, method, and this thing. And I think I need to build it, make it a request. Yeah. Okay, yes. So we have this, and this guy is saying no exception. We'll just surround it for now. Okay, we have this guy ready in here. Let's just collect our response, right? And just for the testing purpose, we will see response back in here. Why this is we can then put a breakpoint here and see how we can use it. So we have a connection provider which is configured to create a connection, right? And then we have a configuration which we are not using much, but let's look at the operation now, right? And let's create an operation to give us a list of string get database list. Okay, when we talk about operation, what we have here is some annotations like config, connection, and all these. These are nothing but parameters, not parameters, arguments to your method, but they are special arguments. How? So if I create a connection like this, not DB connection, CouchDB connection, return empty list. So if I do this thing at runtime, when runtime invokes this method, runtime is going to inject a CouchDB connection instance into my method, right? So then I can interact with that method and call operations on it. By this time, the connection is already initialized, so we can, for our simple use case, we can literally just say, okay, connection dot get database list. That's it, right? And then let's see if we can. We have this guy and this guy. Now let's do what is red here. Why is red? Oh, get ID field. Where is the get ID? Yeah, that's right. We don't have this. So we remove this guy. Okay, so we got connection and database list in here. So let's do one thing. Let's just hit it. Yeah, let's just install quickly and run it. cb dash skip tests. Just make it quick. Let's see what we have. We should see a new operation once this connector gets installed.
Again, I trust you.
I trust this IntelliJ. Okay, let's see, 004 now, 004. So let's go in here and oh, Let's come back. Oh, this time this is not red for once. Okay, this is already in place. And now why it is red? Okay, say hi. We don't want to say hi. Okay, but we have a new operation here, get database list. So let's see if we can do this. Okay, to simplify what we are doing, what I will do probably is I can move this guy into our test XML. Come on, IntelliJ, move. So test X, is it my system is slow or I'm clicking too fast? Okay. Oh, come on. Stop here. So this XML is nothing but a full Mule application, right? We will simplify our testing by putting that flow in here, not really there, because you cannot put operation in the middle of the file. So we will remove Mariano from here. I hope he won't mind it. So let's get him. Okay, so we have this guy and we need our, this is the part, Alex, I cannot hide my super secret password because we are
So sad.
now we are in XML, right? So you'll probably see it.
I would
Okay.
be very impressed if someone hacked your CouchDB local instance.
Yeah, there are users in there. This are like lot of data. Okay, so we have this thing, connection and everything. Okay, what this one will allow us, so we can go back to our CouchDB database. Come on here, and we were working in the hi this flow, right? So we are just reusing the same flow, but it's not really going to say hi. It is actually going to call our operation. So we can this guy. So we stop here and 1 hour is just passing by, Alex. Wait, let me give him a few stuff here. Trying to get some memory back. Okay, so let's see. Oh, come on. So this is how you will test your connector, right? Once you add operation, the easiest thing that I do is install it, put it in the studio, configure it the way I want in there, then copy that code back into the XML test XML. So that way you don't have to manually start typing the XML and try to get your operation correctly configured there. It's running, or at least it is trying to run. Wait a second.
I don't know if it's just me, but I think your webcam and your screen are lagging a little bit.
And I think I see my power, even if it is on the charging, it is showing me I am running only on the 4%.
Oh no, run!
But it is on the charge. Okay, wait, I have another charger right here. Give me 1 second. Okay. I'm going to
What
try
am I gonna
switching
do
this.
if you go, Manik? I don't know what you're doing.
You are going to continue implementing that connector. Okay, let's see if it will stick to that. I literally have effectively two powers in there. You know what? I will I will remove my monitor from here to save some power. Okay, all right. Give it 1 second, it will flip back.
No worries.
It is odd. I was on charging, but I was pulling charging from my monitor. Maybe it didn't have enough charging there. Okay,
Yeah.
so do you still see it?
Yeah, it's still lagging a little bit, but
Okay,
your
let it.
sound is fine. It's just your screen and your webcam.
Okay, it is probably going to try. Hold on, I think I may be using a different Java here, so I'm gonna switch back to 8.
I think your webcam is back.
It's probably realizing that it has more power now. Okay, so let's try now again, and I feel it is doing better now. Okay,
Actually, it's just like a black screen. I cannot see your screen.
you cannot see my screen?
Yeah,
Okay,
also people are just seeing a black screen.
okay, I'm gonna stop screen sharing and reshare it.
Hmm.
So share again, share. Maybe that happened because I disconnected my another screen, right? So
Okay,
now the
you're
thing is,
back.
I'm only running on one monitor, so this thing will have to stay down. Okay, let's go. We are back. And what I was going to show you was how to test it, or the testing part of it. And obviously, we don't have doc namespace here in my test, so I'm gonna remove it. And we will rerun our say hi operations test case. And what I'm trying to do here is use this guy, which is calling the say hi flow. Say hi flow is actually just calling our new operation, get database list, which is right here. Oh, come on, I don't have a doc anywhere else, do I? Oh yeah, I do. That's another problem with when you copy paste from Studio to here. Not all namespaces exist in your test file. At least we need to see this thing working. Okay, all right. So what happened here? It is giving us HTTP service not found. Why? Because yes, obviously we never injected it, right? Okay, so we need to do is add some dependencies. We are using HTTP service, right? So we need to inject service HTTP. Latest one is fine. Important things here are we need to say it as a Mule service. It's just similar to what we do for the connector. We put Mule plugin, right? Here we will put Mule service. And another important thing is provide scope as provided, because runtime already has all these services, right? And I put, yeah, this service in here. And if I recall, this guy also needs scheduler service. So new service scheduler, HTTP is dependent on it. I'm gonna be lazy and just quickly copy paste this guy. Okay, so we have this thing here, and now we will rerun it and say runtime. Please run my test now. We are almost like on time there, but I can finish this if you can, Alex.
Yep, sure.
Okay, so what this thing, error creating retrieving flow, no beam name config. Okay, let's remove this flow. We don't need CouchDB config, CouchDB config. This is what happens, Alex, when we start copy pasting. Every run tells us, oh, you copied either more or less.
Are you gonna blame it on me?
No, I'm just telling you what I usually run into, because I always forget when I copy paste, like, oh, I don't see, okay, how much I'm copying. Okay, here we are. So now it ran and we are into our CouchDB operation right here. And if we look at the connection, our connection has everything. Oh no, there's a password, right? But other than password, if we look at it, the HTTP client that we added into our connection is a fully initialized version of a Grizzly HTTP client, which is what runtime provides us, right? So you have a fully initialized client for you to work with. So let's go inside that guy here. So we are here in get HTTP database list client. We are going to build a request and then execute it. Go, 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 and go. Okay, let's see the response here. It says, okay, really, it says response okay.
That moment when you don't believe when it runs at the first try.
Yes, that is absolutely right. Oh, yeah, I was expecting 401. To be frank with you, I was not expecting 200. I was expecting 401 because we never gave it credentials, right? But what did we do wrong? What we did wrong was we are invoking the base URL. We are actually not, we did not add that underscore all DB URL there, which is protected, not the base. Base is always accessible, right? So at least it made a connection. So let's go back, and our base was just that thing. Just for quick thing, we will add, what was that URL? Come on, come on, come on. All DBs, this guy. This is protected. So for a simplicity, we will just keep it concatenated here. And uh, so if you are getting this attribute from outside, you will obviously put it in the parameter, but this is for this thing, for get database list, this is gonna be static, right? Like you will always go and hit this URL for that. So let's put this thing and rerun our test. Now I hope it gives me 401 because we never added HTTP credentials to it.
There's a
So
question.
yes,
If we
while you
use
wait.
a non-Mule HTTP client in a custom module, I guess
Mm,
it can't use the Grizzly thread pool from Mule runtime, right? If not, how do the thread pools work for that module for in or out of HTTP requests?
no, there is here. So if you go back to the documentation, and I believe it is somewhere. Hold on. Where is the advanced parameters and services? Where are the service injections? So if you see here, you have these services just like we are using HTTP service, right? So there is a scheduler service. You can inject scheduler service, and I believe scheduler service also allows you to create thread pools and schedulers from the same thread pool that is managed by runtime. So that one is more better than creating your own thread pool. So if you have, for some reason you have to use your own HTTP client, I would still say look, at least try for using the scheduler service and get the thread pools from that service. So it is still, the thread pools are in some way connected with the runtime, and runtime is managing your thread pools in there. Does that help? I hope that helps. So you can use another clients, but like document says, if your first preference should be to HTTP client. If for some reason you cannot, then see if you can use the scheduler service and let runtime manage the threads on it. Okay, so now we are here back in our all DBs and let it go, 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 go. Okay, so this time let's see. Here we have 401 now, right? Because we couldn't pass it. So what we will do, we will move this guy out to the request, and the other option, sorry for jumping there here. The other option here was, I think, option, oh, come on, IntelliJ. So other was HTTP request option. That is where we saw it had something for the authentication. So HTTP request options builder. We have authentication, which is taking us to, oh, come on, authentication. This authentication is an interface. Oh yeah, this guy, and it has some method for the basic thing too. So let's get back into our code. HTTP authentication dot basic, and then we can pass our username and password and say build that for me. Get request options. Something is not right. What is this guy saying? HTTP builder authentication basic. Is this a builder? Oh wow, this is also a builder. I thought that was just a method. So builder inside a builder. And then we can pass this request options to this guy. And now let's try to invoke our method again. Come on, come on.
So now it has to be again a 401.
Hopefully not, because this time we gave it a super secret password and the basic username. So let's see this guy. So we have this request object going to URL this thing, and then we have a response also going to whatever the authentication that we have configured, basic and admin and all that. So let it go, and not this guy, this guy. So no, we have 200, and what we received back is an empty content list. That's not very nice, right? We have one database in there. So we have 200 and input stream, content length, optional long dot empty is present, false, and length, input stream. Okay, we have it. So we could parse this entity and read its string. Okay. So get entity, we have get bytes. We can do that to string or no? I forgot how we convert this thing into watch this. See, huh. Alex, how do we convert byte array into string?
With data weave.
Out inside the Java.
I don't know.
Okay. There is always some string util out there. string input stream reader. Come on, this is bad. This is like core Java, right? Input stream.
Someone sent string s equals new string and then bytes standard char sets UTF-8. You can maybe see the
Okay,
chat if you want.
then no. So it's new string response dot get entity get bytes. That way? No, it just gave me empty. Or maybe there is nothing. That call really returned nothing. Let's see. So admin password, and if we look at our own things, all DB. This is the call that we made. Look at this. When this guy makes the request, it has the response. But they are using cookie authentication. Not unlike us. We are super advanced. We are using basic. Okay, let's try to get something else. Maybe underscore session and test this guy. Let's see if we can get access to test. Okay. Oh, wait. Oh, how did we give our URL? Oh yeah, it's like this. And the one they called was, yeah, HTTP find for underscore LB. We should have received the list of database. Nevertheless, we did prove our point of reaching to the CouchDB and get it, right? Did we?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, because I never use CouchDB's API, so maybe some attribute, something I'm missing to send it, but the idea is already here. So we can build whatever the HTTP request is needed and then send that request to target system and get it. So let's see if test gives us anything. And response. We have 200 response. We have headers back from it. Content length is 459. So this should be something. Oh yeah, here. So in this test one, we got it. So yeah, that thing worked. New string. Thank you. Whoever said that saved my string day. So new string and this thing. Not in reality, you probably won't do this thing. You'll probably use a better ways to read this as a JSON and pass it back. But here we did get our callback. Not really from the, where did it go? Heap memory. Did I consume it? Probably I consumed it. It's a non-repeatable string. Okay. So that's the point, I
There's a
think.
question. Is there a
Go
way
ahead.
to indicate a new version of log4j within the dependencies? The local repository quarantines that library, which is called within the artifact, the mule module's parent.
Can you repeat that one more time, please?
Yes. Is there a way to indicate a new version of log4j within the dependencies? And
Mhm.
then in parentheses, the local repository quarantines that library, which is called within the artifact, the mule module's parent.
Indicate update where? In the studio?
Let's wait until they
Okay.
comment.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. In meantime, this is the one when we hit that slash test endpoint, we get underscore DB name, basically the response of that endpoint. So we just have to rename our method from get database list to a get database, right? And then we have made the endpoint. So it's like this thing. So get database, right? And make it a database name. I am doing very basic coding here. Not reality, you will do like this, but concat and all that stuff, you do that thing. So we just changed our operation from get database list to get database. Now this is interesting. So let's add a parameter like database name. So, and then we can pass this name to this. So what this will do now is the here where we have get database list, the operation will change to get database, and it will have an attribute of get database name, and we can say test. So our operation will actually change to get database name as an operation parameter, and then we pass the value from there. And when we do that, this method will get called with this thing, and it will go past. So again, just like the other annotation at parameter level also, you have ways to change how that parameter can appear on the studio in the IDE. You can add display names, friendly names, descriptions, examples, and all that. So, and if we do this, and that's gonna be here. So we'll make it a string, and we will be very basic really here, and we will return the same thing that was said earlier. Get entity, get bytes, right? And then you return this, and you're good. So these are the things where you can now specify, okay, this guy is going to have a media type of application JSON, media type dot application JSON, to indicate the return type of this thing is a media type JSON. That is what you are returning back. If you have like a content parameter here, and if you want to put media type to that, you can also put it on the parameter, so there is some metadata around it, right? That's all about it. What happened here? This guy. Okay, I know we are well over time here, Alex. So let's probably make this thing working, run it, install it, show it, and I think then that gives us a working version of the connector where you can configure a connection attributes on the connector for your CouchDB server, username, password, and we have one operation that can go and fetch the information about the given database. So we have 005, or we should have reached up to 007, right? So 5 in here. Okay, get database. This guy goes away. So here we have database name, and then we can give it a name, something, whatever, whichever way you prefer here. And that will take care of the stuff. So test. I think we could run this and see it. But yes, that's all the point. I believe that's a lot of points for today, Alex.
I mean, you said
Again,
you had never used this before. I don't trust you.
I said no. I said I used it, but I did not use every part of it. And definitely the HTTP client part, I built connectors, but none that were based on the HTTP clients, right? Like they were on
Mm,
the different connectivity approaches, or they were like a modules, not really connecting to something, but doing some stuff. For example, JSON schema validation or that kind of stuff. Those don't connect to anything. Those are modules, right? They add features to for you, right? Compared to connectors like HTTP connector or database connector, which are going and going out and connecting to something. So if we let's say 8081 and test, let's see, do you think it will work? It failed or something.
it failed.
No, it's just had like a null pointer somewhere. I must have messed it up in the how we handle the stream. So 6045, CouchDB connection 45, the famous null pointers here, here, here. So something here is came out to be null. Why? Do you want to debug or do you want to make the assertion here? So 5984, we have admin, we have config ID, and oh wait, why did this guy stayed here? No, this is correct. Get database and database thing. Couchbase get database. And 45. Oh, back in here and something, one of these things are null. So the best way to debug is not sysout, obviously. So don't try this. Add a logger and then do your stuff.
Don't try this at home, kids.
Yes, don't try this at home. Don't try sysouts and everything. Use loggers and go with that. Okay, but I think it's time to review and summarize what we have here, right? So we have a basic version of the connector which uses HTTP service, goes out and connects to CouchDB by whatever the configurations we have enabled on connection provider. You can go as advanced as possible. You could add TLS connection like TLS factory in there, and there was an example in here in the document, right, where it was showing you the HTTP thing. It does have an example of how do you configure TLS context factory if you want to go over SSL, right? So you add this as a parameter, and then you will see the same that section that you see on the HTTP connector where you configure your TLS context. You will see same thing on your connector too, and then you can configure it. And then when you are building this client factory here in the connection provider, if you keep hitting more stuff in here, you can see you can specify proxy, you can specify TLS context factory. Basically, you can then specify whatever you need to specify to make a full HTTP request configuration out of it, right? So that's in here in the provider. And then once on the connection part, we have this one operation, get database. So likewise, you can implement as many operations as you want. Like this is get database, right? If we look at the API for this guy, they have a lot of functions. Get server, so you can pick and choose whatever API endpoints that you want to expose or support in your connector. You can go and implement methods for them and implement the logic to request response, that thing like here, right? And then slowly refactor your code so that it doesn't look like you just played around it and made something out of the wind, right? That's, I think, yeah, that's operations that we have in here. Okay, any questions, Alex?
Doesn't seem like.
Okay, I thought everybody fell asleep, or it's like, this is usual stuff.
We still have viewers, but I'm not sure if this is usual stuff.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like I started with, SDK has so many features, right? Even if we just quickly go back to the documentation of SDK and look at the module structure, right? This module structure itself tells you how many things are possible in here. We did not even touch the source part of it, like adding a source in your extension so that you can create source in your flows like HTTP listener or database listener, all that stuff, right? That we did not even reach up to that part, but that is also supported. Within that, there are multiple options. You can pull messages, push messages into flow. You can poll to a system, or you can listen to a system. So there are lot of things, features that SDK provides, and it will take a long time to really touch all of these things.
So people are asking if you can share this code.
Yes, whatever I created here, I'll push it to my GitHub and it will be there.
Send it to me once you publish, so we can also
Yes.
publish it on the MuleSoft community channels, so everyone can see them when we publish them as well.
Yes, I will. Probably before publishing, I will see if I can get this Git database listing working and show at least that one there. But I will publish. This code will be on the GitHub then.
Perfect.
Yeah. Let me. I can stop sharing screen now.
Cool.
Yes, that was fun.
Yes, it was. I mean,
Sounds.
I mostly just watched you, but still.
No, but it's fun. I think it's good to do it more often. I see some error. Fail to execute goal on project Mule modules DB client. This is for project this Mule modules. Right. Authorization failed. This the error Esteban said there. I don't believe it is from the module. It's from your local Maven repository or the Nexus that is configured for your environment. And it's 213.3. That's quarantine. It's not there. So you could, but is it coming from which client? Mule module CB client. Is that a custom client? I believe so because it has a group ID which looks like an exchange ID, exchange organization ID. So yeah, the only thing I see there that which can be done is find out the source code for that module. It seems to be your custom module, or at least someone built in your environment. You can ask them to upgrade, or the repository. Almost all Maven repositories these days have blocked the older versions of Log4j because of that issue, right? The vulnerability in there. So that's all. I don't see anything else. Anything else?
Nope, just that you share the repo and that
Yep.
you should build some custom policies next time.
Oh, custom policies next time. Yes. Or maybe next time we can look at adding a source to it, like how you can add a source or what you should do to create source connectors. Maybe just an idea. I thought I could do that in this one session, but I was so wrong. It takes time there, but once you start get to the source, it's more fun to.
Yep. I mean, we can also schedule like longer broadcasts if people want. That's fine by me.
Yeah, it's like just sit and keep playing with it.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe just doing for the source part could be one more because operation point of view. Now you add one operation in that file, in that operation class, or you add 100 operations. They may look very similar, like obviously a little bit, but sources are completely different than operations. So we could try that once.
Cool.
That's all.
Yep. Looks
If
like it's all.
awesome. Thanks for
All right.
listening, though.
Thank you so much, Manik. I learned a lot. I haven't used Java in 3 years, as I mentioned. And you are just so easygoing. I would love to have you more.
It's more fun. I mean, playing with code is always fun. So I enjoyed it too. Thanks.
Awesome.
And
Yes.
it's
Well,
just
whenever.
it's just a Friday. So now you learn the Java. It's just Friday. You have Saturday and Sunday to get it working and fix it and like push to the production on Monday.
Of course. Maybe you can
Yes.
push it to production on Friday night. That would be better.
No, I won't be able to enjoy my Saturday. So no.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manik. Hope I can see
Yeah.
you again in this channel.
Yes, me too. All
All
right.
right.
Thanks. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Bye.